He is the leader of the world's most powerful clan, the Grieving Souls, and is known for his wisdom and strength. But in reality, he's a loser and a weakling who just wants to find a way to quit his job. Kurai Andolihy is reluctantly waiting in line at a treasure hunter clan meeting. He doesn't want to be there, but he is left with no other option. In this world, treasure hunters are like celebrities, risking their lives exploring treasure vaults and facing big monsters, just like your mom. It's dangerous, but the allure of wealth and fame drives many to join clans like First Steps, one of the capital's top guilds. Most hunters, unless they are like Jinwoo, can't go far solo, so they join these clans for support. Kruai tries to stay unnoticed, but a girl behind him, Ruda, starts chatting. He ignores her, but she steps in front and introduces herself as a level 3 hunter. She offers a handshake, but Kruai refuses, giving only his name. Though disappointed, Ruda brushes it off and keeps talking about herself. She's been hunting solo until now, but when she stumbled upon a vault called the White Wolf Den, she couldn't handle it alone. She decided to join a party just as the man in front of them turned and told Ruda she shouldn't be tackling dangerous vaults like White Wolf Den while only being level 3. He smirked, calling her an amateur, and said that even at level 3, she was still a rookie compared to the experienced hunters. As the argument escalated, Ruda grew furious and Kruai regretted not staying home to avoid the mess. Ruda drew her knives ready to attack, but a guard quickly stepped in, reminding her that this wasn't London and she'd be banned from the clan meeting if she continued. Realizing her mistake, she sheathed her knives and apologized while Kruai pretended he wasn't involved. Later, Kruai entered the meeting with Ruda by his side, as he was the only one she knew. She was awestruck by all the powerful hunters and felt overwhelmed, never having been in a place like this before. She asked if Kruai had been there before, and he told her it was his 5th time. Ruda thought he must not be a very good hunter if he had to keep returning to recruitment. In the world of hunters, talent is everything, and even a nobody can rise through the ranks. Ruda notices a lively party with flashy outfits on the other side of the room and asks Kruai about it. He explains that the party is called Arc Brave, and they are by far the strongest group recruiting today. They'd once completed a level 7 vault with just 6 members, earning them great respect. If their leader, Arc Rodin, recruits you, it almost guarantees a successful hunter career, though he's very selective. Intrigued, Ruda asks about the empty desk in the corner, but before Kruai can answer, Greg approaches, offering to explain. Despite their earlier argument, Greg tells her the desk belongs to the Grievers, a legendary party of childhood friends known as the Grieving Souls who gained fame after arriving in the capital. Rumors suggested they might recruit today, but their absence leads Greg to believe the rumors were false. Just then, a kid eager to join the Grieving Souls gets frustrated at their absence as he dreams of becoming the strongest hunter. Greg finds him amusing, but Ruda stays quiet knowing the kid is actually a higher level than her. At that moment, a girl named Tino steps up, ready to shut the red-haired kid up with force, believing she's the only one who deserves to join the Grieving Souls party. Her partner tries to calm her down, thinking it's not worth making a scene, even though the red-haired kid is annoying. It seemed like the tension had settled, but then Greg jumps in, stirring things up. Now the whole room is rooting for a fight. Tino and the kid square off, and Kruai senses chaos is coming. Not wanting to stick around, he asks Ruda to step outside with him. As the fight is about to start, Tino, intending to seriously harm the kid, suddenly senses a familiar presence. When she spots Kruai, she forgets the fight and charges at him. Caught off guard, Kruai stumbles and Tino nervously calls him Master, asking if he saw her lose control. Ark then approaches, greeting Kruai and mentioning that they've been waiting for him since he's both the clan leader and the head of Grieving Souls. Those who had recognized Kruai before are stunned to realize he's the most important person there. Despite all the attention he's receiving, it's making him feel ill, and he just wants to go home. Years ago, when Kruai and his childhood friends first arrived in the capital, they were clearing beginner vaults at record speed. But there was a catch. Kruai had no idea what he was doing. He was saved from a monster, and his teammates mistakenly thought he was using himself as bait on purpose, so he played along, though he was nearly eaten. They all shared the dream of becoming top-tier hunters, but unlike the others, Kruai was completely average. He knew he'd eventually drag the group down, so he decided to leave before his friends grew to resent him. Yet when he tried to quit, he somehow ended up being made the party leader. That's how he ended up in charge of his incredibly talented friends, though he really just wants to retire. Ruda and Greg are still shocked that Kruai has been the clan master all along. As Kruai relaxes in his chair, Ark approaches and asks if he showed up late to blend in with the crowd. Kruai insists he simply overslept, but Ark is convinced otherwise. No matter how much Kruai explains, people always see him as more impressive than he really is. Tino, unhappy with how close Ark is to Kruai, wants him kicked out of the clan, but Kruai refuses. Tina was a level 4 hunter and apprentice to Liz, one of Krai's childhood friends, so she spends a lot of time around him. Ark asks Kruai if there are any good candidates for recruitment, but there's no real need for new members at the moment. Since Ark rarely recruits, Kruai seizes the chance and asks if Ark would seriously consider his suggestions. To everyone's surprise, Ark agrees to accept anyone Kruai recommends. The vice captain tries to dissuade him, but Ark insists Krai's choices will be worthy. Tina blushes, thinking Ark might suggest her, but she feels conflicted because she doesn't really like him. Suddenly, Gilbert, a kid from earlier, steps up, ready to beg for a chance. Kruai tells Gilbert he'll recommend him on one condition, that as a hunter, the most important thing is to make sure you always win. If he lacks strength, he will end up putting his party members in danger. So Kruai wants him to demonstrate that he has the ability to always win. Since Kruai began his career as a hunter, he has never lost before, although that's because he has never actually been in a real fight anyway. Kruai removes one of his ring artifacts and declares to the hunters that the first person to present it to Ark will be welcomed into his team. He throws the ring into the wild, eager to watch the chaos unfold. Gilbert grabs it first, but before he can even react, Tina leaps at him and knees him so hard that Gilbert is knocked across the room, likely needing medical attention. The ring rolls across the floor, and after a moment of hesitation, everyone starts scrambling for it. As the brawl intensifies, Kruai quietly slips away, unconcerned about the destruction. By morning, however, the bar fight made front-page news as the place was completely wrecked, though thankfully, no one was seriously injured. Eva informs Kruai that the Explorers Association has called for a private meeting, and he knows they're going to scold him. When he asks how Ark reacted, Eva tells him Ark found it amusing and wasn't upset. Hoping to take advantage of Ark's good mood, Kruai suggests sending him the bill for repairs and having him attend the meeting, but Eva reminds him the meeting is specifically for him. With no way out, Kruai reluctantly agrees to go, knowing that if he doesn't, Gark will hunt him down like always. Kruai plans to use his secret weapon to get out of trouble quickly, groveling and apologizing. He argues that the only damage was to the bar, no one was hurt, and the owner has already been compensated for repairs, so there shouldn't be any further issues. Gark hasn't even yelled at Kruai yet, but after seeing his apology, he decides to let it go for now. However, Kruai still needs to take responsibility for his actions, so Gark assigns him a quest that he can't refuse. The association receives many quests, but some are so difficult or low-paying that hunters call them chores, and no one wants them. Kruai tries to act like he's too important for a chore, but Gark insists. Forced to choose, Kruai looks through the quest book and picks the easiest one, a level 3 quest. He plans to pass the work off to Ark, but when he looks for him, Tino tells him Ark is away at a meeting with nobles. With no other options, Kruai is stuck with the task. Just then, Kruai notices that Tino is wearing his ring, meaning she won his game yesterday. Putting that aside, he asks if she's free. Tino, excited and thinking he's about to ask her on a date, is disappointed when he reveals he has a quest for her. She immediately tries to run, but Kruai summons his chain dog, Silver, to catch her. Soon she's tied to a chair as Kruai explains the mission. Feeling betrayed, she complains she just wanted a date, not this lousy quest. When she suggests Kruai should come with her, he declines, not wanting to do the work, and instead sends her off with the hunters from yesterday. 6 years ago, the most powerful clan in the region, which didn't even have a name at the time, arrived at the Adventurers Association to register. As usual, Kruai tried to stop the team from proceeding and didn't even want to go inside, but his friends refused to quit. Despite Kruai's doubts, he claimed he'd only hold them back, yet his companions insisted he stay as their leader. Frustrated with Kruai's hesitation, the boldest of the group, Luke Cycle, kicked the door open, swaggering in and introducing himself as the world's best swordsman. Liz Smart, at his side, modestly declared herself the most powerful blade in the universe. Luke then told the staff member he was unmatched because, as Kruai always said, real strength isn't tied to a weapon. With a wooden sword in hand, Luke believed he was the most dangerous. All Kruai wanted was for Luke to stop embarrassing him in public. Either way, it was time to register the clan's name and symbol. The receptionist gave Kruai a form, reminding him the name represents a group's spirit. Since no one had thought about a name, Kruai quickly came up with Grieving Souls and drew a strange skull, hoping it would get him out of the leader role. Everyone in the group hated the name, so Kruai used it to highlight his poor leadership. But just as he threatened to step down, his friends suddenly changed their minds, acting like the name was brilliant. That's how the Grieving Souls clan came to be. Fast forward to today, and Greg is shocked to find out the skinny, lifeless-looking kid is actually the master of steps known for 1,000 tricks. Kruai recalls it's the second title he earned as leader of Grieving Souls, since top treasure hunters often get special names and become legends. Despite everyone saying so, Gilbert refuses to believe the kid is great, and Tino, who never liked him, complains to Kruai that she can't work with this fake swordsman. Speaking of fakes, Kruai considers himself the biggest fraud in Zabrudia because despite what people say, he's far from being the strongest. That reputation comes from his clanmates hyping up Grieving souls as the best. Ignoring the argument, Kruai asks if the group is ready for the mission. Gilbert, feeling insulted, calls the situation a joke and dismisses the kid. Greg tries to warn him, but Gilbert ignores him, so Kruai kicks him off the mission. He then asks Greg and Ruta if they're in, and they agree. Furious, Gilbert expects Kruai to beg for his approval, but Kruai couldn't care less. Kruai instead tells Tino to let him know if she needs anything. She seizes the opportunity to mention that she does need the master, but Kruai firmly denies it. With that settled, Kruai prepares to leave, but Gilbert challenges the 1,000 tricks, promising to join the group if he loses. Kruai explains that Tino Shade is the leader, so it's her he'll be facing. Tino, never one to hold back, vows to unleash divine punishment on Gilbert, using the impressive range she gained through intense training. Confident, Gilbert promises to go all out and challenges Kruai again after being Tino. Kruai has no interest in fighting, but Tino draws Gilbert's attention, warning him that even though they're both level 4, she's nothing compared to the master. To make it more exciting, she drops her weapons, deciding to fight him bare-handed. Kruai thinks Tino can handle the arrogant guy, but the sword of purgatory he wields might give him an edge depending on his skill. Surprisingly, Gilbert mimics her and drops his weapon too. Tino then declares that after defeating him, she'll go get ice cream with the master, though Kruai isn't thrilled about it. She insists and Kruai gives in to keep the peace. Motivated, Tino charges at Gilbert with incredible speed. He barely dodges the first strike but gets caught by a swift leg sweep, suffering his first hit of the day. Determined not to give up, the man strikes back at the girl, but she easily dodges and mocks him for challenging her master. Though it seemed he was beaten, Gilbert makes a comeback and regains control of his body. Tino then hits the man's neck, seemingly ending him. But as everyone assumes the swordsman is defeated, he recalls his childhood as a hunter. Even as a boy, he outmatched some adults in swordsmanship, quickly growing strong enough to pursue his career in the capital. Soon he formed a group and successfully plundered treasure vaults, feeling invincible. In the present, his rival warns him to use his sword if he wants to survive. Gilbert refuses, but she reminds him that pride is worthless when you're dead. Reluctantly, he agrees, though he can't stand being weaker than his opponent. Kruai steps in, telling Gilbert they're alike. Just as Gilbert left his group due to a power gap, Kruai faced a similar situation, though his group refused to let him fall behind. Gilbert begins to see Kruai as a benevolent figure, even with his feared reputation. Meanwhile, Kruai inspects the fallen man's sword, noting its elemental damage and solid design. The swordsman should handle the situation, realizing that the man wielded his sword far better than he ever could, reaching a level of skill he could never attain despite years of practice. Gilbert shouts that it's impossible and calls the leader of the Grieving Souls a monster. Kruai then explains that mana material is considered the world's fundamental substance, but it's invisible to the naked eye. Treasure vaults are phenomena where spiritual lines and forces condense mana, creating limited alternate worlds based on the world's core memories. While many kingdoms study the rules behind this, they are still not fully understood. The White Wolf's Nest is one of these treasure vaults, once home to wolf monsters called Silver Moon, who were hunted to extinction for their pelts. Afterward, a blood-stained wolf ghost appeared along with the vault. Upon reading about this, the young man gets scared and notes that a treasure vault reflecting history's vengeance is overwhelming. Eva argues that Kruai put the group in this situation, but he reassures her that his team is skilled enough to handle it since the vault is level 3 and they'll have 4 people, plus Tino is coming along. The boy also thanks her for telling him that Gilbert had left the group as it helped him at a key moment. Finally, the clan's vice master mentions the master put on quite a display with a relic in the training room. He replies that it was easy to control, especially since even Gilbert managed to use it without much knowledge. Kruai enjoys collecting relics of various powers and forms and is curious if Gilbert would sell the Purgatory Blade. Upon hearing this, Eva loses her patience, pointing out that the boss already owns similar relics and even took out a loan from Citri due to debts, despite receiving the same commission as the other Grieving Souls members. The clan doesn't have endless funds. Embarrassed, Kruai tries to respond but only remembers he needs someone to recharge his relics. He seeks out 2 allies, and while one recharges the relics, the other informs him that a ghostly wolf recently destroyed a caravan with level 3 escorts near the White Wolf's Nest. Although Kruai assumes his team can handle it, the man warns that the ghosts are growing stronger. The woman adds that Rudolph Devout, a powerful level 5 lancer, has appeared there, and Kruai recalls that he's wanted for a job related to the guild. Worried the mission might fail, Kruai hopes Gilbert has recharged the Purgatory Blade. Meanwhile, the team is on its way to the nest, and Tino doesn't help morale by revealing she wrote a will before leaving. She reasons that if her master sent her, the mission must be tough, but she trusts Kruai wouldn't assign her to a random group, though the rest of the team feels this is exactly that. Gilbert accepted the job because the Thousand Tricks already knew why he left his previous group. Tino explains that the man is brilliant at deduction and has vast knowledge of the capital and its surroundings, so he likely figured it out from Gilbert's words. Ruta doubts this, but Greg believes only such a calculating mind could have predicted the bar incident. Tino adds that their master meticulously planned the mission to ensure no major dangers and would never send them to their deaths without careful thought. Ironically, after sending a group to their deaths without much thought, Kruai decides to catch up with them in time to order them to abort the mission. Meanwhile, the team barely arrives before encountering a ghost wielding a sword and shield far stronger than any human. As Kruai searches through endless clutter for the relic, Eva scolds him for carrying a forbidden citrus slime. Despite this, Kruai flies off with the unstable relic, which may turn out to be his last flight. Years ago, in the early days of the Grieving Soul, it had only been a week since the clan started operating in the capital, and Gilbert was already furious. His divine sword, Blade of the Testament, had shattered like a twig. Other jealous members joked that fighting ghosts with a stick would be hard, while Tino commented she hadn't expected to find a Cyclops in a level 1 vault, since those monsters were level 4. Overhearing the conversation, a drunk tavern goer called them rookies, claiming a Cyclops would never appear in the Goblin Cave, and even if it had, it wouldn't have survived. At that, 2 female clan members stepped up, revealing the Cyclops to the drunk, leaving him stunned. Kruai, observing, thought this was exactly why he didn't want to bring the creature along. Fast forward to today, Gilbert Bush cuts a werewolf in half. Exhausted, Ruta complains that such a monster shouldn't appear in a level 3 vault. Similarly, Greg doesn't understand why the Blade of Purgatory didn't ignite during the battle, to which its owner replies the sword is out of mana and he can't recharge it alone. Ruta suggests retreating, and Greg adds that things aren't as they were told, likely meaning the group they came to save is already dead. Despite this, leader Tino insists the plan stays unchanged. Greg anxiously asks if survival isn't the priority, but Tino firmly states they didn't come to collect monsters. The ones they're rescuing are alive and executing a perfect level 8 strategy, with the Blade's depletion part of the Master's plan. The group pushes forward to the White Wolf's den, where humanoid wolves armed with bows and guns await them. Greg realizes that the wolves they fought earlier weren't just randomly powerful. The entire pack is highly skilled. Tino explains the den was originally home to the Silver Moon wolves. Gilbert rushes ahead, eager to finish the fight quickly, thinking that once they deal with the armed wolves, the rest will be easy. Tino, however, cautions him not to be reckless, reminding him that her responsibility as leader is to ensure everyone survives. She lays out a strategy. She and Ruta, being the fastest, will lure the wolves, while the others attack from behind at close range. The guns shouldn't be a big issue, but no one is to use another as a shield. Meanwhile, Kruai silently hopes at least Tino survives, even if the others don't. Tino recognizes the wolves' superior skill but highlights the team's key advantage: teamwork. As more armed werewolves approach, the group instinctively knows how to react. Though they're a makeshift team, their synergy is solid. Gilbert may talk too much, but he's effective. Greg's experience helps the group, and Ruta, while not flashy, excels at spotting enemies. With the plan working smoothly, Tino starts to think her master is a true genius. In the midst of battle, Gilbert becomes frustrated, feeling underestimated by the enemy. This takes him back to a memory where he felt the same, pushing his team to be tougher, but they couldn't keep up. Disheartened, he abandoned them on the spot, unaware they were giving their all. Over time, the gap only grew. Back then, he was filled with anger, but now, fighting alongside others, he's matured enough to see the value of teamwork. After another victory, the group moves deeper into the White Wolf's den, arriving in a larger chamber. Tino touches the wall, sensing a presence, not the ones they came to save, but likely the den's boss. Greg suggests retreating, but Tino reminds him they've come this far unscathed and should be able to handle it. Despite agreeing, Greg remains uneasy. Tino teases him for being overly cautious and argues that safe missions don't help anyone grow. Greg admits she's not wrong, recalling how he stopped fighting when he thought he couldn't win, a habit from seeing many friends die. Tino points out that Greg joined this team to change that mindset, and that's why the Master put him here, despite barely knowing him. Kruai's true intention was to save everyone there, meaning the Master is like a god, and there's no way he assembled that team by chance. He would never lower himself to such a trivial role. Everything he does is meticulously planned, aligning perfectly with his flawless design, which is always carried out with precision through intricate tactics. In other words, Tino reiterates once more that Kruai is indeed a divine figure. On that note, Ruta is keen to figure out why she was chosen for the team, and Tino is at a loss for how to respond, so he simply watches her, searching for an explanation. It quickly dawns on her that the answer is obvious. It is because of her melons. The newcomer looks ready to protest, but before she can, the leader cuts off the idle chatter and directs the group to resume their journey. Speaking of the cold and calculating god, Kruai starts to panic as he realizes he has no idea where the group he sent is located. To make matters worse, the relic he's using to fly is essentially a plane without brakes, which is clearly dangerous. However, despite the turbulence, he accidentally crashes into the White Wolf's den. Meanwhile, Tino and the others confront the dungeon boss, a massive white wolf. As soon as the enemy makes its first move, the entire group recoils, visibly nervous, as it's clear this wolf is immensely powerful. The team becomes hesitant, disorganized, torn between fighting and retreating. Tino notices that the boss isn't wearing a helmet, which must be its weakness. This is likely one of the 1,000 trials set by her master Kruai, so she knows she must pass the test. With that in mind, she commands Gilbert to block one of the wolf's attacks while she handles the rest. Gilbert braces his sword against the beast's axe, holding it off briefly. Greg strikes at its leg, but the wolf swats him away with its paw. Tino charges fearlessly, leaving Ruda in awe. Greg's sword shatters from a heavy blow, and as the wolf prepares another strike, Ruda rushes in, pushing him aside just in time. Tino climbs the axe handle, suffering a deep scratch, but lands the final blow, defeating the beast. Afterward, she tends to her wound with a healing potion. Greg mourns his broken sword, but Gilbert reminds him it could have been worse. Grateful, Greg thanks Ruda for saving him. But their mission isn't over. Tino gives Greg her sword, but suddenly a giant spear narrowly misses her. 4 more giant white wolves, identical to the dungeon boss, emerge. Even Tino feels the pressure and realizes their challenge is greater than expected. She orders the group to flee through a narrow passage to slow the wolves, but one blocks the way. Greg suggests Tino and Ruda escape, while he and Gilbert stay behind to buy time. The leader refuses to let anyone be sacrificed, ordering the team to target the wolves' eyes and quickly organizing a new attack. Gilbert leads, ready to face death, blocking a wolf's strike as Greg follows up, but both are knocked back. Ruda hurls shurikens at a wolf's eyes, but it shuts them in time. Tino uses a flash technique she learned from Kruai, blinding a wolf, but even so, it hurls Gilbert into a wall. She regrets the poor strategy that endangered him. Surrounded with no options, Kruai crashes into the scene, taking down a wolf. His power causes the remaining wolves to hesitate, but one charges. Kruai blocks with an accessory and fires projectiles to finish it off. With 7 security rings, Kruai is formidable but uninterested in the mission and just wants to leave. To end it quickly, he throws a pendant, detonating it to create a distraction for the group's escape. Everyone retreats, but Tino, wounded, slows them down. Gilbert complains about the pace, but Ruda reminds him they're following the injured leader. In truth, Kruai is sprinting as fast as he can, which is still as slow as the injured girl. Thinking he's being thoughtful, Tino recalls that kindness has always been one of his key traits. Long ago, when she was a child, 2 men troubled her until the grieving soul rescued her, and since then, she's wanted to be like them. After distancing themselves from the wolves, the group rests while Kruai uses another relic to heal Tino. Gilbert, a bit scornful, comments that Kruai relies on items for everything, but Kruai ignores him. They continue despite Kruai having no clue what he's doing or how to escape. Years ago, as a child, Kruai would often impress his clanmates with a number of relics he possessed. Being a fan of such items, he saved up to buy as many as he could. Liz asked if Kruai could use one suited for her, but Luke objected, saying the leader should use relics that benefited the entire group. Tino joked that Kruai's hoarding would finally pay off, as she was their battery. Curious, Liz asked about a relic she was holding, and Kruai explained it was a magic pouch that could store much more than it appeared, though only chocolate. Tino, surprised, realized how useless that was. Liz then showed off a bracelet she liked but was quickly thrown to the ground twice. Kruai, embarrassed, explained it was a labyrinth ring that distorted space. Meanwhile, Luke got stuck to a sword, which Kruai revealed was cursed. The sword also filled Luke with a violent urge, but fortunately, these dangerous relics later became training tools for Luke and Liz. Now Kruai's current group was navigating the White Wolf's nest. The narrow corridors split continuously, making it impossible to tell where they were. To make things more confusing, Kruai was leading even though the rogues Tino and Ruda should have been guiding. At that moment, Kruai glanced back subtly, causing everyone else to do the same. In truth, he just wanted to see if Tino would look at him, worried she might resent him by now for dragging her into this chaotic mission. Since she glanced back with the others, Kruai started to believe she didn't want to talk to him anymore, and a wave of anxiety hit. Even though she had always said she adored him, he felt like he had really messed up and might need to apologize on his knees. Just then, Gilbert asked if they were heading toward the exit, prompting Kruai to look back again, making everyone follow suit. Internally, Kruai thought they were heading toward the exit, but he had no idea how to get there. Tino explained to Gilbert that figuring out the Master's plan was part of their training and revealed they had never been heading for the exit in the first place. Even Kruai was shocked, so she added that she had checked the map earlier and had some idea of the cave's pathways. However, the route they were on would never lead to the exit. To get out, they have to return to the boss chamber. Hearing this, Kruai realized he had messed up, especially since he hadn't even realized the giant wolves were the bosses. Ruta then asked where they were going, though she knew it was all part of the plan. Kruai stayed silent, having no clue what to do, and just hoped everyone wouldn't act like they were depending on him. He continued walking in silence. After Kruai suddenly turned ahead, the others were drawn to what lay in the opposite direction. Tino reiterated once again that her master always had a reason for his actions. With that, everyone ran the other way. Confused, Kruai checked on the situation and found that the soldiers they came to rescue were down that corridor. Their leader, Rudolph, gratefully thanked them, and Tino gave all the credit to her master, who she said always knew what he was doing. Kruai shrugged it off as coincidence, puzzling Gilbert with his remark. Greg noted that it only made Kruai seem more mysterious. Ruta mentioned she had healed the wounded, but they still needed food, so Kruai pulled out his infinite chocolate pouch and handed it out. Gilbert asked how it worked, but Kruai said it was a secret. Greg then admitted that when he heard the missing soldiers were level 5, he thought there must be a mistake. Rudolph explained that they, too, were caught off guard because no one expected the enemies to be that strong. While Gilbert acknowledged the wolves' strength, he was surprised they could overpower level 5 soldiers. Rudolph clarified that it wasn't the wolves, but a lone enemy, a small ghost with a skull-covered face, possibly the manifestation of the Silver Moon's curse. This curse had formed after the humans exterminated the wolves, turning their resentment into a deadly power. Rudolph was convinced he was right, unable to think of any other explanation. He and his men had been confident, but the coast seemed to rival 1,000 swords, the capital's greatest swordsman trained with the sacred blade. A lunatic who could defeat anyone, even with a wooden sword. Kruai knew this man well. He was Luke's cycle, Kruai's childhood friend and a member of Grieving Soul. Kruai thought the coast was strong, but doubted it matched the 1,000 swords. Luke wasn't there, and Tino couldn't handle the ghost alone. Kruai regretted not waiting for Ark and suggested they leave before encountering the creature. However, since Tino Shade was the mission leader, they had to follow her lead. She admitted she was inferior to her master, but Kruai reassured her it was part of her training and he'd help if needed. In reality, Kruai was tired of leading and wanted to pass the responsibility. Shade accepted the challenge and agreed that leaving quickly was the best option. As they resumed their journey, Tino led the group toward the exit. Rudolph offered to stay behind and buy time while his companions escaped, but the leader assured them that with the master present, everyone would be safe. Hellion, one of Rudolph's men, insisted it was his duty to be the shield as his superior only took the mission for him. Kruai said they could sort it out once back in the capital. Suddenly, dozens of howls echoed through the cave, and Kruai calculated he had 5 safety rings left. On the 6th, he would die for real. To make things worse, he no longer has relics, and a shooting ring won't be enough to stop the enemies. As if that wasn't bad enough, the Citri's slime has vanished, and the sword tied to his waist is missing. In this dire situation, Kruai wonders if this is the end. Meanwhile, a mysterious figure walks through the misty cave and teleports away. Amid the chaos, Kruai's group senses that something serious is about to happen, and Rudolph braces for it. Kruai steps in front of Tino, realizing that using the Night Hiker to become a human missile would kill him, but at least provide a surprise attack. Suddenly, 4 purple flames ignite, revealing the infamous ghost. Everyone freezes in fear as a second figure, wielding a sword, appears behind the ghost. Tino begins to say her final goodbye while Kruai wonders what Liz Smart is doing here. Without hesitation, Liz teleports beside the ghost and delivers a powerful kick, slamming it against the wall. She then returns Kruai's lost sword, explaining that she hurried over, only to feel sad and embarrassed to hear the leader went to a vault. She couldn't believe Kruai worried so much or that Tino couldn't even pick up trash properly. As she says this, Liz grabs Tino's arms. When Gilbert tries to intervene, Liz kicks him in the chest, warning she's still apologizing, and then asks Tino if the issue was poor training or a lack of ambition. After calmly asking, the teacher completely loses her temper and curses, saying Tino will die in the gutter before tarnishing Kruai's name. Tino kneels and begs for forgiveness, calling herself worthless. Kruai steps in, praising Tino for doing well on today's mission and Liz for her excellent work. Feeling proud, Liz notes that Tino only lacks the will to die. Suddenly, a giant wolf with a minigun appears and fires wildly. Liz, unfazed, puts on her mask, stops time, catches a bullet, and drops it, angry they underestimated her. She complains that her student feared such a weak weapon, ruining her reputation. Liz then leaps at the wolf, kicks its head, and drags it to the ground with an energy trail that explodes. Amid the chaos, she screams that killing enemies however you want is the most fun. With the wolf down, only the ghost remains. He attacks with incredible speed, but Liz stops his blade with one hand, showing her student that this is easy. She knees the ghost in the stomach and punches him to the ground, teaching that the best way to win is to kill your enemy without hesitation, even if it risks your life. While passing on these teachings to Tino, the teacher insults her repeatedly, calling her stupid and other harsh names until she breaks down in tears. During this, Kruai realizes that the ghost stands no chance against the thousand swords and that Liz and Luke's battles were what helped Grieving's soul improve so much. Nowadays, Liz Smart is faster than anyone, earning her the nickname Stifled Shadow in the capital. After their victory, Gilbert Bush declares that Kruai can keep the Sword of Purgatory, as he plans to restart his journey and will soon be able to catch bullets midair like the Stifled Shadow. Tino, Greg, and Ruta doubt this, but Kruai just wants to dream and be happy. Since he aims to be as strong as Liz Smart, he gets advice about Stag's customized masks. 6 years ago, Kruai had messed up an order for his clan and got masks without eye holes, but the group still loved them and made them part of their identity. A year ago, a quirky alchemist named Citri Smart gifted Kruai a slime, saying it made her feel safer. Citri, part of Grieving's soul and the brains behind Grieving Souls, works at the Capital Science Institute and is renowned among alchemists, earning the nickname Unfettered. Sometimes she has Kruai test her wild lab creations. About this slime, she warned him to handle it carefully since dropping it could jeopardize the entire capital. Fast forward to today, Kruai is frantically searching his room for the slime. He remembers last opening the capsule at the White Wolf's den, only to find it empty. Reflecting, he realizes the vault, an ancient relic that had always been locked, was likely empty from the start. Laughing at Citri's mischievous nature, he considers letting it go, not wanting to make himself sick. Meanwhile, at the den, a warrior defeats a ghost and asks her partner if this was still a level 3 area. He replies that the ghost levels had surged recently. She comments that the association's investigations are no easy task, while he notes that exploring anomalies in treasure vaults is crucial to the kingdom. He also mentions the 1,000 Tricks involvement, hinting at something strange at work. Back at Kray's place, he barely slept, consumed by thoughts of the slime. As he steps out, Eva Renfried approaches, notifying him that the association demands a report on the White Wolf's den. Kruai, as lazy as ever, replies that Tino, the leader of the team, should handle it. However, Eva explains that Tino is training with Liz. With no escape, Kruai asks if there's been any buzz in the capital about the mission. Eva doesn't know but promises to investigate. Kruai then asks her to drop it, deciding to check on Tino himself. Eva informs him that Tino is training on the second sublevel. As Kruai heads there, Eva ponders the unusual events, wondering if Kray's predictions about anomalies and noble squabbles are truly coincidental. Reaching the sublevel, Kruai meets Sven Anger, leader of Obsidian Cross. Sven quickly asks him to stop Liz, who is causing havoc in the training hall. Kruai argues that monster control isn't his job, but with Ansem and Lucia absent, Sven insists there's no one else to handle it. He also asks how Liz smartly managed to return alone. Sven explains she disarmed all traps, reached the boss's room, and simply left, bored. Impressed yet worried, Sven warns that if no one steps in, Tino could end up in serious trouble. Kruai forces a smile and claims people don't die that easily, but when he enters the hall, he sees Liz standing over an unconscious Tino, still menacing the student without hesitation. Liz raises her leg to finish the downed girl, prompting Kruai to stop the training before it turns tragic. Liz impatiently explains she was simply training Tino, remarking on the girl's potential despite her lack of strength, even compared to Liz herself at Tino's age. Kruai appreciates the teacher's passion, but insists the student has hit her limit and asks for a pause. Liz protests, but just then, Tino grasps her ankle, asserting she's not done yet. Kruai wonders why Tino is wearing a mask while Liz celebrates her resilience, preparing to continue. Kruai leaves, telling the others there's no stopping Liz once she's in this state. Sven, though frustrated, agrees that it's good for Tino to grow stronger. Shifting topics, Sven mentions the North Road is now blocked due to ghost sightings. Over tea, he adds that an investigation found the Night Orders were unprepared for this. Kruai recalls hearing that travelers were attacked by ghosts from the White Wolf's den and suspects Gark wants to discuss this with him. Thinking back, Kruai regrets Ark's absence, as he's more reliable than himself in situations like this. The man is a truly outstanding leader and skilled fighter, independent and beyond average. If Kruai could leave everything in his hands, things would run seamlessly. Since that's not an option, Kruai focuses on buying time. Watching his leader reflect, Sven observes how calm he seems, making Kruai wonder if it's because the issue doesn't directly concern him. Kruai then decides to send the Obsidian Cross to meet Gark, hoping he can guide the clan on handling the matter. He asks group members to inform the Adventurers Association manager that he won't be attending, shedding another responsibility. This prompts a member of the Obsidian Cross to question Kruai's leadership style, noting that he often stays behind while others take on missions. Sten, however, explains that the newcomer doesn't yet understand Kruai's mindset. It's this very behavior that drives the Grieving Souls and the Obsidian Cross. In Sven's view, Kruai is almost monstrous and never to be underestimated. Later, Gark learns that the energy lines near the White Wolf's nest remain unchanged, and the mana levels are stable. He needs to speak with Kruai to understand the anomaly in the treasure vault, though Kruai is reportedly too busy to meet. Gark plans to visit him tomorrow, confident Kruai knows something. Meanwhile, in a hidden lab, an elderly master magician notes that he never expected a high-level hunter to get involved. Others, dressed in matching uniforms, comment that it's only a matter of time before the Adventurers Association finds this place. The old man remarks that Kruai shouldn't be underestimated, while another man points out that simple hunters can't grasp the great master magician's efforts in the capital's Akashic Tower Research Division. The master explains that this mechanism uses the vast energy lines, altering the treasure vaults. If the chief's theories prove correct, they might even create vaults at will. The team, however, worries about abandoning the lab to start over, especially with Sophia on vacation, as she's responsible for the defense system. The master assures them he granted her leave and that she'll return shortly via harmonic stone communication to resolve the deadlock. Meanwhile, Kruai dreams of the capital in flames under attack by a creature, wondering if Citri slime is the threat, though he dismisses it, as his dreams never come true. He then finds Liz next to him, though she often sneaks into his bed. Later, as he leaves his room, Liz warns him he's busy today when they encounter Gark. Seizing the chance, Gark asks for her report on the Night Palace. Annoyed by the interruption, Liz kicks him, though he deflects, cautioning that even his patience has limits. Kruai and Kana's chat over tea takes an unexpected turn when he accidentally hints at a bigger issue beyond the White Wolf's nest. He avoids further explanation, claiming he fears someone might overhear. In reality, Kruai knows he unleashed a dangerous slime in the capital but keeps that detail secret. Busy as always, he suggests Gark is the right person to handle the situation, as he won't have time. Meanwhile, the hall is in ruins from Liz and Gark's battle, with Liz taunting the manager for losing his edge. Pushed too far, the manager unleashes a powerful energy, reminding Kruai of his past as the war demon of Zabrudia. To stop the hall from collapsing, Kruai asks them to pause the fight, but Eva is horrified by the damage when she arrives. Liz continues provoking Gark, calling him weak and unfit for the Night Palace, though Kruai isn't so sure. Kruai then brings up a question, asking if the dungeon boss was more challenging than the one in White Wolf's nest. However, Smart found the nest boss so easy to defeat that he hadn't even realized it was a boss at all. This reminds Kruai that Citri and the others are still at the Night Palace and should be returning soon. The lost slime could cause quite a disturbance. Liz notices that Kruai appears concerned and asks him what's on his mind. He then asks what she would do if all of Zabrudia were to fall. Liz replies that she would escape somewhere south with Kruai, since she's never seen the ocean and thinks it would be a perfect opportunity. With that, Liz leaves her bag with the boy and darts forward to restrain a passerby, claiming that he was watching them oddly. However, Kruai tells her to let him go and the man quickly flees. Once he reaches a secure spot, the fugitive ponders why Kruai allowed his escape, suspecting that Kruai might be aware of the plan. The following day, Kruai and Liz venture into the most dangerous area of the city. Liz still believes this outing is a date, but Kruai quickly clarifies that it's strictly business. Based on information from Eva, he's learned that people have been mysteriously disappearing from the slums. Normally, this wouldn't catch his attention. He's concerned that the missing slime creature might be involved. As a bonus, there's a new ice cream shop nearby, and Kruai plans to check it out after doing the bare minimum for his mission. He suggests they visit the shop first, making Liz happy, though the shop owner is far less pleased. This is the same man Liz apprehended last time, but Kruai let him go. The shop owner suspects that Kruai intentionally allowed him to escape back then, and now fears Kruai has returned to capture him, possibly knowing that the ice cream parlor is actually a front for one of the Akashic Tower's research facilities. Panicking, the man considers shutting down, but the arrival of a red-haired woman named Sophia, who oversees their organization's defense, gives him a glimmer of hope. Outside, Liz grows impatient and nearly blows the door down, but Kruai stops her, suggesting the shop might not open today. Disappointed, Liz agrees and they return to their clan, much to the fake shopkeeper's relief. Back in his office, Kruai asks Liz if she knows when the alchemist Citri will return from the level 8 treasure vault. Liz mentions she might take a while, and Kruai just hopes she returns before her slime wrecks the entire city. Suddenly, Eva arrives at the office, informing him that the Hunter Association has assembled a team to investigate the White Wolf's den, even deploying a relic expert to see if any new discoveries can be made. Kruai senses it's a serious matter, but he remains unconcerned since he has no intention of going there. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper reaches Akashic Tower's headquarters, alarmed as he reveals that Kruai managed to find him. He's shaken because Kruai easily saw through their perfect disguise yet didn't take any action against them. Trembling, he admits he can't fathom Kruai's thoughts, and the others share his unease. They turn to Sophia for advice, and she boldly suggests confronting Kruai and his clan directly. Everyone is stunned, but she reassures them they stand a chance despite their adversary being at level 8, as she believes the security system she designed can withstand Kruai's clan. The old mage gives her permission to proceed, acknowledging they can't avoid this confrontation forever. The following day, the First Steps clan building is filled with adventurers. As Tino steps in, she's astonished by the crowd and asks a nearby person what's happening. He explains they're gathering to investigate the White Wolf's den, which Tino considers excessive. However, he then mentions Kruai was initially planning to send Ark, a level 7 hunter, to the level 3 treasure vault, shocking Tino further and underscoring how grave the situation truly is. That is why the association and their clan have gathered a large number of treasure hunters to address this. Soon, Kruai and Eva also arrive, and Kruai, seeing the crowd, asks if all these people are gathered for some kind of celebration. Eva informs him that they are here to explore the White Wolf's den, explaining that since Kruai had previously asked Ark to handle the task, she organized a team that could act as a replacement in his stead. This revelation shocks Kruai as he only mentioned Ark because he's known as a Mr. Perfect, who excels at everything. Realizing the high cost of deploying such a large group, he suggests they cut the number in half. The hunters are alarmed, fearing this will lead to their demise. Eva reassures them, suggesting that Kruai has something essential to share, though in reality he doesn't. Kruai tries to ease their concerns, saying a mission's difficulty isn't as severe as they're imagining, but they remain unconvinced. Turning to Eva, Kruai inquires about the hunters' rewards and learns that Chief Gar has allocated extra funds to ensure everyone is well compensated. With the financial aspects settled, Kruai tells the hunters to proceed as they wish, and they are pleased to know they'll be heading to the vault together. At that moment, Liz arrives, taunting them as a group of weaklings who lack the courage to take on challenges and grow stronger. She leaps up beside Kruai, declaring that she'll tackle this mission herself, only needing Tino to accompany her. Kruai quickly dismisses her request, unwilling to put Tino's life at risk or lower the morale of the other hunters. He announces that everyone here will participate in the mission, after which Eva assigns him to lead the group. Kruai is surprised to hear this, but the others feel reassured, assuming their safety is assured with the clan master joining them. Craig realizes he can't simply refuse, so he agrees to join them later. Until then, Sven, who is already at the White Wolf's den, will take charge. Before the group departs, Kruai warns one member to watch out for slime monsters if they encounter any in the vault. The team of treasure hunters sets off to the treasure vault, unaware that it's actually a base of the Akashic Tower. The tower members assume Kruai has sent the hunters to confront them. As they consider how to respond, Sophia suggests this is their opportunity to attack the hunters while they're unprepared. She explains that her defense system is crafted to counter even the strongest hunters, requiring the combined strength of the Griever party to overcome it. However, only Kruai, Liz, and the alchemist Citri are near the capital at the moment. Although Sophia has a strategy for Kruai and Liz, she lacks a foolproof plan for Citri. Nonetheless, she harbors a personal vendetta against Citri, vowing to defeat her personally. Sophia mentions that Citri has uncovered their master's theory about creating new treasure vaults and has been experimenting with it. Declaring that this cannot be allowed, Sophia seeks permission from the wizard to deploy their full firepower against her. The wizard grants her permission and appoints her as the commander for the upcoming battle, though the second-in-command appears less than enthusiastic about the decision. Meanwhile, Sven and his team survey the area and find nothing out of the ordinary, though he still believes that Kruai sent them there for a specific reason. Suddenly, he receives a call and instructs his teammate to blow the emergency whistle to alert the other treasure hunters. Once outside, Sven relays Kruai's message, warning them to be cautious of the slime monster. The treasure hunters are annoyed, feeling frustrated at having to take orders from someone who doesn't even have the balls to be present on site. Sven encourages them to trust Kruai's judgment and shares a story about how Kruai once organized a flower-watching event and advised everyone to bring their weapons. As Kruai made a toast, a treasure vault materialized behind him, and everyone saw his foresight firsthand. The hunters are impressed by this, and Sven reiterates that Kruai's information is more valuable than any treasure they could find. Back in Krai's office, Liz nags him for an assignment, eager to showcase her combat skills in front of him. Already annoyed by her persistence, Kruai wonders how much longer he has to put up with her, until the hunters resolve the situation at the White Wolf's den, allowing him to appear at the end. At that moment, the alchemist Citri arrives, informing Kruai that she's there to help him deal with an immensely powerful and cunning organization that could soon threaten the world. Kruai immediately orders Liz and Tino out of the office as Citri begins sharing details about the Akashic Tower. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Gark dons his battle armor to enter the treasure vault, eager to prove he's still in his prime. His assistant tries to dissuade him, fearing he might pull a muscle or injure his back. Suddenly, Citri arrives to inform Gark of crucial details about their true enemies. Back in Krai's office, he reflects on how Citri was the only other member of their friend group who wasn't incredibly powerful. She always knew that frontline combat wasn't for her, so she wanted to find another way to support her friends. It was Kruai who suggested she pursue alchemy, which eventually led her to become the greatest alchemist. Citri tells Kruai that the slime she created can quickly adapt to its environment and evolve, though it's an unstable and failed prototype. However, she assures him that she has programmed it to never target her or Kruai. Kruai is alarmed, realizing that the rest of the city might still be at risk. He's told Citri that he has no idea how or when the slime went missing, so she assumes it must have escaped its capsule and slipped through the drainage. Kruai feels somewhat reassured by her trust in him, but then Citri mentions another matter, something potentially even more dangerous than the escaped slime. Meanwhile, back at the White Wolf's den, Sten learns from the reinforcements that Kruai won't be joining them anytime soon and has also prevented Liz from coming. Sten is somewhat relieved not to have the unpredictable Liz there, and he decides to rally the treasure hunters with a pep talk. He asks if they're ready to face a slime, to which they all respond that even children can defeat slime, so there's no need to worry. Sven, expecting this reaction, silently curses Kruai for not giving them more useful information. Just then, an exceptionally rough-looking hunter decides to enter the vault, dismissing strategy as a waste of time for the weak. Everyone else laughs at him, and Sven remarks that he can gladly be the first sacrifice to the monsters, so they can all learn from his death. The rough-looking hunter sneers, calling them all cowards, and heads inside. Meanwhile, a nervous woman raises her hand to ask a question. The redhead resembles Sophia, the defense head of Akashic Tower, but she introduces herself as an alchemist from Krai's clan. She mentions having collaborated with Citri on slime research and produces a vial of a potion she claims can kill any slime, no matter how strong. Sen then rallies the treasure hunters, urging them to aim for glory but return safely. The investigation begins, but as the day draws to a close, it only encounters slightly stronger wolf phantoms than usual. Sen wonders if Kruai might have been mistaken, but thinks it would be for the best if that were the case. Just then, the rough-looking hunter, who isn't exactly a genius, returns, complaining that if everyone weren't so scared of slimes, the mission would be over by now. He heads into the forest to relieve himself, rumbling about Kruai and giving orders from afar without stepping into the action himself. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise and investigates, only to be stunned by the sight of two men and a huge chained wolf beast. The men, identified as part of the Akashic Tower, are there to implant the Incredible Hulk's nut into the wolf to make it incredibly powerful, just as Sophia had planned to unleash chaos on the hunters. The hunter senses something is wrong when he notices a massive syringe and dashes forward to confront the two men. He quickly knocks out one, but the other counters by launching fireballs, which the hunter deflects before slapping him down. He grabs the taller man, planning to interrogate him later, but the man asks if Kruai sent him. The hunter responds that he's acting on his own, continuing to pummel him. Meanwhile, the other man injects a powerful serum into a wolf, which begins to melt on the outside but grows more threatening because of it. The two men announce that the mutated creature will now seek out and absorb the strongest source of mana around, making it even more powerful. The creature immediately drains the two men of their mana, and the hunter sounds a warning whistle. Sten hears it and rallies everyone outside the forest to prepare for battle. Soon, a heavily injured hunter staggers out, missing an arm, and warns them that Kruai was right. A formidable slime monster is now loose in the forest. Just then, the wolf phantom, transformed into a slime by the serum, emerges. Sen takes the first shot, aiming an arrow at its legs to slow it down. The magicians unleash fire and ice spells on the slime, but it's unaffected. Meanwhile, Sven and the healer tend to the hunter, who explains that he saw two strange figures inject Phantom, turning it into the slime creature. Unharmed by the magical onslaught, the slime creature advances. Sen decides to try a physical approach, rapidly firing several arrows, but they have no effect on the wolf slime. Sten is stunned to discover that neither magic nor physical attacks have any effect on the slime. Despite this, He assures the hunter that they'll fight as long as possible. As the slime wolf charges, Sven warns the team to keep their distance and avoid its attacks since the creature moves quite slowly. He then rushes to Sophia, asking for the anti-slime chemical she has. She tells him that the slime will self-destruct if it comes into contact with the substance. Taking on this critical task, Sven runs to lure the slime wolf, which suddenly leaps toward him. Swiftly, he plants the vial in the ground and dodges aside. The slime wolf lands on the vial, shattering it, and as it encounters the chemical, explosions erupt within its body. Everyone thinks the battle is over, but the slime wolf absorbs the blasts and survives. Sven feels defeated, realizing the wolf wasn't a true slime, otherwise it would have been destroyed. An armored ally explains that Kruai had described it as a slime-like creature. Not a true slime, leaving Sven cursing Kruai and the Grievers. At that moment, Citri arrives to help, having convinced Kruai to assign her to the White Wolf's den. She tells Sven that the reason they can't harm the slime wolf is due to its dense mana, which acts as a barrier. Fascinated by this unique creature, she observes it carefully and quickly deduces how the wolf's phantom form transformed into slime. She approaches the dangerous beast, casually dodging its attacks, and realizes it is hunting those with the most mana to restore itself. Pitying it as a failed experiment, she decides to put it out of its misery. She hurls a vial at the slime wolf and calls for Sven to shoot it. With pinpoint accuracy, Sven, now an upgraded marksman, strikes the vial mid-air, which then hits the slime wolf's head. Citri reveals to him that the vial was filled with anti-mana metal capable of nullifying the creature's defenses. At that moment, Gark arrives, fully equipped in battle gear, surprising Sven. Citri explains that she had asked Gark for a ride earlier since, unlike her sister Liz, she couldn't just sprint all the way there. This doesn't entirely satisfy Sven's curiosity, so Citri adds that she has some insight into the recent events and suspects who's behind them. She leads everyone to a nearby camp where she begins explaining the existence of the Akashic Tower and its leader, Master Magus. The stern, office-like men in the group mention that Magus had been banished from the Imperial capital long ago, but Citri questions whether a mere ban could truly stop him. She reveals that this vault serves as the Akashic Tower's base, and Sophia suggests that it may hold valuable equipment. Citri, familiar with Sophia, confirms this and explains that the tower is gearing up for battle to protect their research from discovery. She's determined to stop their illegal and dangerous experiments and asks everyone to follow her, assuring them that while she's not Kruai, she'll give her all. Later, as everyone prepares for the fight, Sten's assistant notes Citri's courage. Sten warns him not to underestimate her. Despite her weaknesses, she has an uncanny ability to turn any situation in her favor, making her as formidable as any other Griever. Meanwhile, Liz clings to Kruai, pleading with him to let her go help Citri, but he firmly denies her, brushing off her complaints. From the Akashic Tower, members opposed Sophia Black's order to send the demonized ghosts individually, arguing it would isolate and sacrifice their key assets. Flick criticized Sophia, a mere researcher, for her lack of military knowledge and dismissed her plan as unwise. When they tried to summon her for clarification, she had already left to inspect the defense system, and her communication stone was unresponsive. Frustrated, Flick reminded them of the Thousand Tricks threat and decided to disobey, commanding all the ghosts to be released at once, vowing to teach Sophia real warfare tactics. At the camp, interrogators discovered Akashic Tower's role in creating the ghosts. Citri promised to spare the captured enemies if they confirmed their master was Magus, but they chose death over betrayal. Despite their silence, an alchemist deduced they were followers of Noctis Cochlear, a known fraud, revealing her pursuit of Akashic Tower and familiarity with these men. She insisted on learning Noctis' whereabouts and, when ignored, used a dangerous serum to force compliance, though the prisoners protested its harmful effects. The girl warned that if they didn't act properly, Noctis would escape. Gark agreed with Citri's concern, but reminded them that the prisoners weren't criminals, so drastic measures weren't justified. Citri laughed, revealing her vial contained only colored water, which she drank to prove it was harmless. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from the forest, followed by a monster's roar. As the group rushed out of the tent, the captured Akashians cheered, signaling the arrival of a powerful ally. Emerging from the forest, a massive creature approached, leaving Sven wondering how they could possibly defeat it. Citri explained they needed to analyze the magical barriers created by ghosts, focusing on attributes, location, and methods to dismantle them. She directed the frontline soldiers to form a shield wall, despite their hesitation, explaining it was crucial to measure the force and direction of the field. If any soldier felt pressure on their shoulders, they had to release it quickly to avoid injury. Lyle, a shield bearer, positioned himself but was overpowered when the giant struck. Citri instructed the mages to disrupt the ghost's movements, but the giant evaded their spells. Observing its behavior, Citri concluded the force field rotated and shifted to the right depending on contact points. The coastal battle was a nightmare, especially in close combat. Gark lamented that his axe was useless and suggested waiting for the ghost's mana to deplete. Citri estimated the mana could last an hour, enough for the monster to wreak havoc. She noted Kruai likely wanted Arc involved because of this, adding that concentrating fire on one weak spot might bring it down, though the ghost's advanced technology made it unlikely with their current weapons. Suddenly, a second demonized ghost appeared, prompting Sven to urge Citri to order a retreat, as the men were too exhausted to fight. Gark doubted they could flee and wondered if reinforcements from the mages could help. Citri, despite thinking their leader was reckless, ordered the mages to stop attacking and everyone to retreat. Amid the chaos, the two ghosts began fighting each other. The alchemist explained the ghosts targeted hunters instinctively to pursue mana material and would attack anything else containing it. A third ghost soon appeared, and as the humans surveyed the scene, they realized the forest was surrounded by these creatures battling each other. Talia, stunned, questioned why the Akashic hadn't sent the ghosts individually. Back at Akashic Tower, Magus scolded his subordinates, insisting Sophia's orders were to be followed as if they were his own. Listening through the communication stone, Sophia embarrassed Flick, stating that despite her lack of combat experience, she wouldn't give pointless commands, implying Flick lacked creativity. Aware of their failure, the leader asked Sophia for the next move. She reported that the situation had escalated. The alchemist had joined the enemy, accompanied by the retired yet formidable level 7 hunter Gark Welter. Fear gripped the Akashians, knowing his threat, especially with their potion supplies depleted. However, Sophia rejected retreat, pointing out the enemy had taken hostages who might reveal Akashic secrets. She suggested using the Malice Devourers to trap the enemy and eliminate them entirely, preventing information leaks. Noctis noted the creatures were still in training, requiring a commander. Sophia then appointed Flick, who reluctantly accepted, eager to redeem himself after his prior failure. Talia admired Citri, nicknamed Prodigy, as a rare, exceptional hunter. Gifted with exceptional talent and intellect, Citri is not only a genius but also relentless in pursuing the truth, no matter the risks. She works strictly within the law, though Talia admits she envies Citri's brilliance, feeling she can't measure up. Sten interrupts Talia's musings, frustrated that the anti-lime substance failed, and complains that Citri avoids sharing crucial insights during missions. He mentions the enemy resembled a slime but wasn't one, and questions why prisoners keep staring at Citri. Since she's unsure, he urges her to stay vigilant and leaves. Meanwhile, Gark brings Citri a drink and advises her not to push herself, warning that the association can't handle the Tower of Akashic alone. To his surprise, Citri reveals she has pinpointed the enemy base, factoring in spiritual lines, mana concentrations, geology, and monster sightings. She deduces the base is on a hill. Despite the prisoners' frantic denials, their reaction confirms her theory. Citri urges an immediate attack before the enemy escapes. Terrified, the prisoners scream the name Sophia, prompting Citri to disclose that Sophia is her archenemy and the true mastermind behind the Tower of Akashic. She declares that Sophia's defeat is essential to ending the sinister research. Noctis and Sophia are considered the sneakiest and most despicable mages, according to Citri. She blames herself for Sophia's freedom but vows not to fail again, promising Sophia will soon be imprisoned in the Southern Historic Prison. Meanwhile, Kruai arrives at the camp with Liz and Tino. Kruai, known as the Thousand Tricks, worries he's too early since his plan was to appear after everything was settled, given his lack of relics and protective rings. As the path ahead is pitch dark, Tino tries to hold Kruai's hand, but Liz, jealous, snaps at her, declaring it'll take eons before Tino is worthy. Kruai corrects her about light years being a distance measure, not time, but lets it go and uses his owl vision to navigate. Liz assures Tino she'll destroy anything in their way and urges her to do the same. Meanwhile, Jean realizes that ignoring Kruai's advice cost him dearly. Citri remarks that Kruai, destined to be a treasure hunter, will surely reach level 10 despite being physically weak, as strength isn't what matters most. Sten then questions why the alchemist didn't bring her usual magical creature. Killiam is under maintenance, but a sudden spell strikes the group fiercely. Flick boasts about the high-level magic, confident Sophia isn't needed with him leading the mission. After landing and destroying the enemies, he regrets using so much power but feels it was justified by the complete annihilation. Sten, however, realizes the spell came from the Tower of Akashic, and Citri, unharmed, questions why an area attack was used with hostages present. She dismisses the spell's power, claiming it pales compared to their usual challenges. The alchemist then shoots Sven with a strange liquid, regenerating him instantly. Sven retaliates against Flick, knocking him down, but the Malice Devour blocks his second strike and counters. Gark intervenes, striking the monster with his axe, while Citri heals the others. Back at Akashic's base, Magus is furious at Flick for only capturing one Malice Devourer, and even the Calamitous Thunder failed to harm the enemy significantly. They suspect the Master of Tricks orchestrated this, but Noctis refuses to retreat. With remaining Malice Devourers and a trump card, Akashic and Sophia, they prepare for defense. Meanwhile, the hunters close in, led by Gark, Citri, and Sven, as Kray's team tracks the Calamitous Thunder's trail. They rush toward the cave, but the members of Akashic Tower are prepared to confront them on their soaring lions. However, this is merely a tactic to buy time as Magus activates their secret weapon inside his laboratory. Pressing several buttons, he triggers the shattering of a stone statue, revealing a towering golem. Magus proclaims it to be the Akashic Tower's ultimate weapon, confident that their foes won't stand a chance against it. The golem steps out of the cave, where Gark awaits its challenge. The colossal creature swings its massive sword, forcing the seasoned warrior to muster all his strength to deflect the blow. Witnessing their strongest opponent pushed to the brink, the Akashic Tower members take the offensive, ascending high above Sen and his team. While chaos reigns and fighters are either engaged or waiting for their turn, two prisoners secretly work to cut the ropes binding their hands. One of the flying lions attacks Sven, injuring him, but he quickly heals himself and rallies his allies, urging them not to lose hope. The treasure hunters face grim odds until Liz suddenly arrives, dashing in with incredible speed. She strikes one of the flying lions, bringing it down and reigniting the group's morale. With Liz on their side, Sven commands everyone to push forward. Meanwhile, Kruai and Tino are isolated in the forest. Kruai grows uneasy since Liz has rushed off, leaving him without a reliable protector. Suddenly, Tino senses a presence and alerts Kruai, asking if she should handle the intruder. Kruai, suspecting it's merely wildlife, advises her to leave it be. The people Tino sends turn out to be prisoners of the Akashic Power, confused as to why Kruai is letting them go. Unaware of their existence, Kruai decides to continue the journey, but his night vision lenses suddenly lose power. He asks Tino to guide him back onto the battlefield, where Liz is easily defeating the flying lions. She mocks the other treasure hunters for struggling with them, calling Citri a weakling. Citri demands to know why Liz is there, and Liz admits she begged Kruai to bring her. Liz swiftly returns to the fight, launching a high-speed attack on the golem. Although tougher than she expected, she relentlessly strikes, causing it to crack and retreat. Gark, unwilling to be outdone, attacks with his ice axe, freezing the golem briefly. Sen aims at it, momentarily powering it down, but the golem reboots and counters aggressively. Gark swings again, but the golem dodges and leaps into the air, shocking everyone with its agility. It reminds them of Ansem, one of the 6 grievers, who is similarly large and nimble. Liz suspects the golem may be modeled after her friend, but focuses on destroying it. As she leaps to attack, the golem reveals a hidden cannon and fires. The energy blast grazes her stomach, forcing her to retreat since she struggles with long-range combat. She keeps running as the golem fires at her, and Citri realizes it will be tough to defeat the golem even with her sister's strength. She decides the best strategy is to drain its battery. Liz, taking offense to that, attacks the golem to prove she can handle it herself. With a powerful combo, she knocks it down and Gark damages its foot to finish it off. However, the golem activates thrusters on its back and takes off, prompting Liz to abandon the fight. At that moment, Kruai arrives and casually asks how everyone is doing, unfazed by the massive golem. Seeing him, everyone feels confident the fight is over since the strongest hunter is now on the scene. The golem suddenly charges at Kruai, but Tino clings to him in fear. Kruai, oblivious as ever, repels the golem without even realizing it. It crashes into a wall and powers down, leaving everyone amazed and asking what technique Kruai used. Unbeknownst to them, his lenses had run out of mana, and he hadn't even noticed the golem. He casually asks Tino why everyone is acting so excited. With the golem defeated, the treasure hunters raid the Akashic Tower base, seizing anything valuable. Kruai receives a report from Citri, thanking him for sending Liz at the right moment. However, Citri declares the fight isn't over, as she plans to destroy the Akashic Tower herself. Meanwhile, 2 escaped prisoners regroup with Magus and the others who fled after their defeat. The 2 men believe the red-haired alchemist among the treasure hunters is Sophia and inform Magus that she has infiltrated their enemy's base. Magus, however, has lost the will to confront Kruai, unable to predict his next move. He decides to leave the Empire and instructs his men to recall Sophia. Meanwhile, Kruai meets with Gark and a government official who demand information about Akashic Tower. Kruai admits he doesn't know anything and suggests they speak to Citri, who was in charge. Hearing her name unsettles the official, recalling how 3 years ago, a jailbreak implicated Citri, leading to her demotion and loss of title. Gark intervened to prove her innocence, leaving officials wary of her sins. At Akashic Tower's makeshift base, Magus's disciples bring a captured girl they think is Sophia. Frightened, she denies being Sophia, but Magus accuses her of lying until a flying lion shows hostility toward her, revealing she's telling the truth. The real Sophie then appears with a bottle of wine, baffling everyone. She remains unfazed by her lookalike, explaining they resemble each other but have clear differences. Suddenly, she removes her wig and robe, revealing she's actually Citri, throwing everyone into chaos. Magus confronts Citri, accusing her of impersonating Sophia. Citri shocks everyone by revealing that she is Sophia, leaving them to suspect she has been betraying them all along. She denies this, explaining she joined the Akashic Tower because of her admiration for Magus's work and his insatiable curiosity for knowledge. Though she supported him to see results, she now insists they must stop. Citri explains that Kruai spared his captives and refrained from acting as a warning for her to return to him. While she never revealed anything, Kruai's ability to detect lies ensured he knew the truth. She reveals Kruai orchestrated everything to test their research on high-level hunters, which was largely successful. Citri intervened during the attack to prevent the gum from being destroyed. She then announces that their research has been seized and arrests are imminent, but declares her intent to continue it. Since Sophia doesn't truly exist, all blame will fall on Magus. Citri approaches her assistant, admitting she used her distinct red hair to disguise herself, causing the assistant to break down in tears. As the Akashic Tower disciples prepare to attack, Citri summons her flying lion, forcing them to retreat. Magus unleashes a powerful fire attack that kills the lion, but Citri remains unharmed. She had prepared for this, using the Citri slime Kruai had lost, which absorbed the attack to shield her. The slime begins consuming the lion's body as Citri proudly explains that it's her finest creation, able to endlessly grow by consuming mana. Magus panics, realizing the slime could potentially devour the entire earth. Citri admits she only wanted to test it against a strong mage like him. Suddenly, Magus's disciples set off a smoke bomb, urging him to flee while they distract the golden slime. As Magus tries to escape, he collides with a muscular figure at the door and tumbles down the stairs. Terrified, he sees Citri approach, explaining she wanted to become stronger like her friends. Since crafting golems was slow and costly, she created a pet chimera by breaking into a high-security prison and using escaped criminals as raw materials. Horrified, Magus realizes she is the most ruthless person he's encountered. Citri, now masked, declares he will make excellent raw material. The chimera kills the old man, the rest are arrested, and Citri erases their memories, including her assistants. She reports to Kruai that everything ended smoothly and vows to handle materials more carefully next time, though he has no idea what she means. The following day at the Hunter Association headquarters, the manager discusses the major incident involving Noctis and the White Wolf's den with those involved. Kruai quickly requests to keep the Akashic Golem and the Malice Eater, leaving Gark and the inspectors puzzled. Adrian questions the motive and Kruai vaguely explains it's for drinking, sparking disbelief among everyone present. Afterward, Kruai regrets not securing the golem, while Citri jokes about the drink being enough, leaving him scratching his head in confusion. Citri then announces she's off to claim her reward, leaving Kruai behind. Gark seizes the moment to inform the indifferent Kruai about Arnold Hall, the Thunderous Lightning, the level 7 hunter and dragon slayer, recently arriving in Nebula News, the Land of Mist. Despite the importance, Kruai shows no interest, irritating Gark, who warns him against causing trouble with such a powerful figure. Gark emphasizes his point with a hard slap on Kruai's back, nearly injuring him, though his safety ring activates just in time. As Gark leaves, singing a tune, Kruai notices a poster in the room about the prestigious annual Zabrudian auction. Many auction items are relics, and the volume and quality of goods entering Zabrudia during this time are impressive. Remembering this, Kruai touches his head, lamenting that he's too broke to join this year. He considers asking Citri for help again, but hesitates, unsure if he ever returned her last loan. Suddenly, a woman named Chloe Welter interrupts his thoughts, introducing herself as the association's counter-attendant. Kruai soon recalls she's Gark's niece, though their connection seems unlikely. Noticing her uncle's good mood, Chloe asks what happened. Kruai remembers the manager mentioning a dragon slayer, terrifying Chloe when she realizes it refers to Arnold Hall from Fallen Mist. Kruai jokes, calling him almond oil, just as Citri arrives to fetch him. As they walk, Kruai confirms the item in Citri's bag is Malice's ear, which she describes as a very good boy. Nearby, Arnold Hall passes unnoticed, entering the guild to approach Chloe. When she innocently asks if Arnold's men are new, their leader's followers grow tense. Meanwhile, Kruai finds the Malice Eater's smaller form surprisingly cute, though Evil worries about its potential danger. Citri reassures her companion that she has trained the monster not to harm her or Kruai. Suddenly, the little creature leaps into the boy's lap, suppressing its excitement as it activates a safety ring for humans. Citri jokingly calls it food, removes it from Krai's lap, and changes the subject when he asks about Lucia's return. She guesses it will take a while since Lucia and Luke's cycle are battling ghostly swordsmen. Citri then gives Kruai a relic called Realize Outer, which can store a spell, though Kruai doesn't fully understand its use. Meanwhile, at the association, one of Arnold's companions complains about the receptionist not recognizing Arnold as a level 7 hunter. Another advises him to calm down, assuring him their credentials will soon establish their reputation as the dragon slayers of falling mist. Arnold, crushing an apple in his hand, agrees. Back with Kruai, he enjoys a massage from Citri, while Evil watches awkwardly. Taking the chance, Kruai mentions the need to recharge relics that are low on mana, though he hesitates to ask anyone but Lucia. Inspired, Citri gathers a group of wizards, including the Obsidian Cross, and announces a special training session to share her techniques. Those excelling in the training might reach Lucia Sten's level, a notion that shocks Anger, as surpassing such a powerful mage seems unimaginable. Others, however, admire Krai's ambition and cleverness for proposing this idea. Two interested candidates are Lapis Fulbor and Chris Argent, members of Starlight. Chris criticizes Krai's lack of proper manners towards Lapis, but she dismisses it, reminding Chris that Kruai, though unrefined, is still their clan leader. Lapis emphasizes the need to adapt to human traditions now that they are part of their society. Chris privately laments that Kruai is Lucia's older brother. Kruai reflects on Starlight, a group of semi-human noble spirits gifted in magic, who often look down on those without similar abilities. Lapis acknowledges that while Lucia, despite being human, is exceptional even among the nobles, reaching her level isn't impossible. Citri notes that Lucia's progress is due to this very training. Inspired, Marietta, a mage from the Obsidian Cross, joins the program and begins recharging a relic from Kruai as part of her training. Nervously, she announces the relic won't recharge, but Citri pushes her to persist. Exhausted, Marietta finally succeeds, only for Citri to present a second relic, leaving her stunned. Marietta recharges not just the second relic, but quickly starts on the third. The alchemist overseeing the training explains that mana levels greatly affect a person's abilities and can be increased from childhood through adolescence. Suddenly, Marietta collapses from exhaustion and is helped by Henrik. Citri explains that overusing mana leads to fatigue, something everyone has likely experienced. However, Citri sees this as a chance to boost mana even in adulthood, as recovery from exhaustion can slightly raise it. Sten criticizes this method, calling it too taxing on body and mind, while Chris complains that even nobles like her need proper recovery time and finds the approach harmful. Citri then introduces a substance to speed recovery, giving it to Marietta, who briefly wakes before collapsing again. Despite the scene, Citri claims her mana has increased and insists that with regular use, it could lead to unimaginable power. Shocked, Kruai wonders if Lucia used such methods to grow stronger, but the alchemist clarifies that Lucia's strength came not from talent, but from intense sacrifice. This, she says, is why Lucia is unimpressed by Starlight, a group of naturally gifted magic users who lack the determination to improve. Offended, Chris demands all the relics to prove she's better than them. Mad than O, the alchemist Chimera sets all the items on the table for the semi-human to enjoy. Lapis assures them it's no big deal, so Chris eagerly takes on the challenge. Other mages decide to join in as Citri tells Kruai the relics will be energized by nightfall. Meanwhile, a noble asks Ark Roden if he's considered a business opportunity, but Ark admits he still has much to learn. The noble compares him to Trickster, but reassures him they're equals, promising to discuss exclusivity later. Changing the topic, the noble mentions Lord Gladys, whose daughter has been looking for Ark. Just then, young Madame Eclair appears in search of him. The next day, as Liz bathes, Tino warns it may take a while. Citri teases Tino about her sister's harsh treatment and boldly asks her to become her disciple, embarrassing Tino. Using a request for a towel as an excuse, Tino flees to deliver it to Liz, only to find her stepping out of the shower completely unclothed. Citri quickly covers Krai's eyes while Trickster, still blindfolded, suggests a celebration for Liz and Citri's safe return. Liz's attempt to hug her sister is thwarted, as her robe is nowhere to be found. In the end, Kruai invites Tino, reasoning that 4 is better than 3. By late afternoon, Arnold's group is fed up with being treated like clueless villagers, though Arnold is more focused on finding a bar. Speaking of bars, the group gathers to celebrate, but Liz accuses her sister of spiking their drinks after noticing how quickly the shadow gets drunk. A suspicious empty bottle is found dripping an unknown substance. Citri denies it, but the rogue isn't convinced and insists something's off. However, she's too intoxicated to notice the alchemist tampering with her cup, adding strange green liquid. Confident, Citri challenges her sister to keep drinking. Kruai steps in, handing the spiked mug to the alchemist, who has no choice but to drink. Soon she's incoherent, accusing Kruai of treating her like a bank and demanding he repay her with his body. Liz tries to intervene but ends up kissing a member of the Falling Mist. The other members introduce Arnold Hall, a hero seeking women and drinks. Liz offers to join him, but he rudely dismisses her, prompting her to dump her drink over his head, shattering the glass and leaving him unconscious, much to the crowd's delight. 3 years ago, Chloe Welter took the entrance exam for First Steps. That same day, Luke Cycle, known as the Blade of the Testament, eliminated a competitor and glorified himself in the process. After failing the test, Chloe abandoned her dream of becoming a hunter and became a receptionist at the association. Fast forward to the present, shortly after the bar incident, Kruai remembers hearing of Arnold before. He even notes Arnold's impressive record of defeating a thunder dragon, stressing the need to resolve matters peacefully. To achieve this, she suggests asking Bosgark to mediate, which Kruai supports, though he humorously reminisces about grilled thunder driving with lemon, much to Eva's frustration over the dragon's rare and costly materials. Meanwhile, Arnold acknowledges the strength of the girl who hit him, suspecting she's a renowned hunter, and vows revenge for his tarnished reputation. He and his allies head to the association to identify her, but Gark reveals her identity, Liz, known for her unmatched speed. Changing topics, Gark warns that Arnold has already caused trouble in town and has alerted Liz's guardian about potential retaliation. Kruai, a laid-back level 8 hunter nicknamed 1,000 Tricks, was at the bar, though he'd likely forgotten the feud. Arnold's men panicked upon hearing his name, but Gark calmed them down, explaining that Kruai wouldn't tolerate bullying. If Arnold's crew promised to behave, Kruai wouldn't let Liz harm them again. Gark then handed Arnold a note from Kruai. The Thunder Dragon was delicious grilled, please bring more. Furious at the humiliation, Arnold swore vengeance against Kruai. Meanwhile, Citri revealed Kruai's debt to her exceeded 10 billion. When she asked if he knew the amount, he clumsily counted on his fingers, admitting uncertainty. Citri outlined 3 options: jail her in default on the debt as long as her sister joined her, marry her to merge their assets and erase the debt, or delay payment indefinitely. The third and final option for Kruai is to get engaged to the girl. As the 1,000 Tricks explains to his assistant, the only current solution is to marry Citri. Smart, considering she'll ensure the debt is paid if he doesn't. Even believes they can cover it with Grieving Soul's revenue, provided Kruai avoids wasting money. However, to pay it off faster, he might explore a treasure vault for extra funds. Noticing his dissatisfaction, Eva offers to create a payment plan but warns him against incurring more debt. Left alone, Kruai grows more disheartened, remembering the auction is near. Meanwhile, on the street, Tino Shade overhears a man telling Arnold's companions about the 1,000 Tricks rumored foresight. Another person mentions Kruai's flawless rise to level 8. Tino jumps in, praising his master as fearsome, then walks away, leaving the group puzzled. Reporting back, they share how stories about the 1,000 Tricks are vague and mysterious. They learn Kruai rarely takes on missions, delegating tasks to his allies. Some claim Grieving Soul's leader knew of a treasure vault that appeared suddenly, while others say Kruai once isolated a giant golem with his mind. Arnold dismisses these tales as exaggerated but can't ignore Kruai's level 8 status. Arnold believes he has never faced a truly dangerous opponent. His partners also noted that almost no one has seen the 1,000 Tricks fight directly, leading the Thunderous Lightning to conclude the enemy is more of a strategist. Having reached level 8 with help from Broken Shadow and others, the boy isn't weak, but Arnold is convinced he's no match for a self-made level 7. With this in mind, the foreign hunter vows to show the Imperial capital they aren't just clueless outsiders. Meanwhile, Kruai is panicking over his massive debt to Citri Smart. To relax, he steps onto the balcony, only to be interrupted by Tino, who appears like Spider-Man, asking if he needs anything. She explains that no one sent her, but she saw Kruai smiling at the sky and decided to check in. Taking the chance, Kruai makes a request. After chatting, Tino grows uneasy when Kruai reveals he needs help covering her equipment repair costs, but insists he's not asking for a loan since his debt is already over 10 digits. As Tino struggles to grasp the number, her mouth starts bleeding from shock. Things escalate when Kruai jokingly suggests marrying Citri to erase the debt, leaving Tino completely rattled. To lighten the mood, Kruai invited Tino to enjoy some street sweets, but she remained anxious about his debt and proposed they search for treasure vaults to sell relics at the auction. Kruai, however, admitted he wasn't capable. If he were, he wouldn't be in such deep debt. Tino offered to handle it herself as long as the place wasn't too dangerous. Meanwhile, an ally of Arnold strolling nearby noted it was unwise to confront the 1,000 Tricks clan head-on and suggested waiting for a chance to catch him alone. Coincidentally, they soon crossed paths with Kruai and Tino. Though it took Kruai a moment to recognize them, the men weren't friendly, drawing weapons as Tino stepped in to defend him. The 1,000 Tricks acknowledged Liz blowed Arnold, but stated he was meeting with Tino and wanted no trouble, even offering to kneel an apology. Tino, angered by the gesture, insulted the group, ruining any chance of peace. Kruai then challenged them to a showdown, hoping a clan member would appear to assist, but it was just him and Tino against Arnold's 5 cronies, labeled A to E. When one asked when the fight would begin, Kruai joked for patience, unintentionally referencing the man's name, leading everyone to think he was playing mind games. Arnold, clearly frustrated, accused Kruai of only reaching his position due to his connections. Furious, Tino demanded an immediate resolution. Kruai stepped back, releasing the girl's leash, but Tino soon realized she had overestimated her ability to handle the situation alone. With no choice, she charged at the storm, but her attacks were easily blocked. Kruai, meanwhile, watched for help from his clan. The fight grew more intense when Tino landed a kick that broke Arnold's defense. Frustrated, the outsiders slammed her head to the ground and challenged Kruai directly. Kruai then revealed a powerful relic, the Tyrannical Authority, a gravitational magic device made by his sister Lucia to subdue high-level hunters. Arnold, now paralyzed and desperate, demanded an explanation. Kruai told him he could only face him again after defeating the major groups, First Steps, Obsidian Cross, Starlight, and Arc Brave. Back at the sweet shop, Tino apologized for her failure and promised to repay her master's debt. Later, during Liz's training, Citri shared that Arnold had confronted Kruai, met Tino, and tried to settle the conflict. Ultimately, Kruai had to use his overwhelming authority to end the situation. Liz remarked she'd love to put Arnold in his place, but felt she couldn't act without Kruai's permission. Meanwhile, Klo met with Kruai to deliver a message for Arnold and his group. She mentioned they were level 7 hunters known for slaying a dragon, recalling how Kruai had provoked them by suggesting they hunt another thunder dragon to turn into teriyaki barbecue. Kruai denied making the suggestion, arguing everyone knows teriyaki is better with chicken. Instead, his intended message was, "I'll never forget you until I no longer remember." Klo found it odd, but wrote it down anyway. Before Kruai left, she asked why she failed the test 3 years ago. He said she already knew the answer and could pass if she tried again. Privately, Kruai reflected that the real reason she failed was that she'd been only 14, under the minimum age requirement, and pursuing her now would mean dealing with Gark's wrath. Meanwhile, Klo resolved to find the answer, unsure what Kruai meant but determined to focus on her role as a guild receptionist. The following day, Arnold and his men were drinking in frustration after their humiliating defeat at Kruai's hands. They were enraged that Kruai had repeatedly mocked them and effortlessly overpowered them without even causing harm. To make matters worse, Kruai had taunted them further by suggesting they challenge the strongest parties in his clan if they wished to face him again. Just then, a man with a hairstyle that screamed "Joe Suke" returned from his scouting mission. He reported to Arnold that he had visited the top 3 parties Kruai mentioned, only to be met with disbelief and dismissal. Sten, one of the leaders, outright stated that Kruai must be toying with them and that they shouldn't take him seriously. A scout then approached the elf girl, who was busy refilling relics for her party, another of the strongest groups, only to hear her clarify that they weren't Kruai's subordinates and wanted nothing to do with him. Lastly, he attempted to meet Ark, but was turned away by Ark's girlfriends, who told him not to trust anything Kruai said. Arnold, still roaming around in his birthday suit, was furious upon hearing all this and vowed to get his revenge on Kruai. However, one of his men advised him to hold off until the grand auction, where they could purchase better equipment and possibly sell the bizarre relic that remained unsold in their kingdom. Meanwhile, Kruai and Tino were visiting a relic shop to have an item they had recently discovered analyzed by an expert. Tina revealed that she had retrieved the relic from a level 1 treasure vault by following Kruai's guidance, which left the old expert stunned, as the relic turned out to be of remarkably high level. Kruai is pleased to hear that and inquires about its effects, but the elderly man responds that he needs to conduct thorough testing, which will take time since he has a large number of relics to evaluate before the auction. Kruai becomes even more enthusiastic upon hearing this and asks to see the relics that will be auctioned, suggesting the man talk to Tino in the meantime. The old man agrees to this compromise, partly because Tina reminds him of his granddaughter. He asks her how things are going and advises her to lean on her friends when life gets difficult, adding that despite Kruai's bad habits, he is dependable. This sends Tino into a downward spiral as she insists that her master is an incredible man despite his massive debt and reckless tendencies, and that she is nothing compared to him. The elderly man grows concerned about what Tino is learning and decides to confront Kruai, who has just discovered something valuable among the relics. A mask made from the flayed face of the colossal titan. Kruai believes the mask will allow him to change his appearance at will. He had owned a similar mask before, but Liz destroyed it because it was unsettling. Now Kruai wants the mask again so he can live freely without being bothered. The elderly man arrives just then and tells Kruai to leave the shop because he has work to do, But Kruai expresses his interest in the mask and insists on speaking directly with the person who sent it for appraisal. The old man explains that he hasn't even assessed it yet, but agrees to arrange a meeting. Afterward, Kruai and Tino go out for dessert, where she asks how he plans to afford the creepy mask. She mentions that Citri is spending heavily on her research and providing free mana potions for mages, leaving little money to spare. This makes Kruai uneasy, and as they walk back to the clan building, he worries that asking Liz for money might lead her to rob someone. He wonders if there's anyone else who could lend him a large sum when he notices a noble's carriage outside their building. A blonde girl arrives with Ark, thanking him for showing her around. She remarks that while most hunters are fools, Ark is a gentleman and she enjoyed visiting his workplace. Kruai and Tino stare at her, prompting her to rudely ask why. Ark introduces her as Eclair, the Earl's daughter, and Kruai as his clan master. Eclair comments that Kruai looks too frail to be a level 8 and mocks him for being above Ark. Kruai listens with a smile, which flusters her. When she demands to know why he isn't reacting, Kruai politely explains that having grown up poor and without manners, he tries to tread carefully around nobles. Feeling guilty, Eclair leaves in a hurry. Kruai chats briefly with Ark before asking if he has a lot of money. Ark, knowing Kruai plans to buy a relic at the auction, firmly declines to lend him any. Disappointed, Kruai turns to Sven with the same request, prompting Ark to burst into laughter. Word of Kruai's desperate attempts to borrow money spreads quickly throughout the clan and the city, sparking rumors that the relic must be a legendary artifact. Its perceived value skyrockets, but Kruai still fails to secure any loans. Left with no choice, he goes back to Citri, who selflessly offers him all the money he needs, prioritizing his goals over her own. Feeling guilty, Kruai waits with her at a cafe, hoping the negotiations go well. To his shock, the relic's owner turns out to be Arnold, who is equally surprised. As Citri and Arnold's assistant exchange subtle tactics, Arnold interrupts, pointing out that Kruai's desperation suggests he knows something about the mask's powers. He demands answers, refusing any deal until the truth is revealed. Kruai admits he can't share specifics, but warns that the mask is dangerous and outlawed in their country. He urges Arnold to let it go before it leads to trouble, which only stokes Arnold's pride. Arnold initially claims he won't sell the mask, but quickly reconsiders, suspecting Kruai is using reverse psychology to appeal to his pride. Since Arnold has no use for the mask and considers it dangerous, he decides it's best to sell it before complications arise. He proposes a deal, offering it for 10 million, a surprise to Kruai, who was hoping for a 30 million agreement. Citri assures Kruai it's acceptable, and they immediately present the cash to buy the relic. However, others in the cafe, intrigued by the rumored artifact, spark a bidding war. Eclair ultimately wins with a staggering bid of 100 million, leaving Kruai disheartened. Eva later explains that the price surged due to rumors of Kruai borrowing money from Ark. Despite this, the mask ends up being sent to auction as more nobles take an interest. Eva scolds Kruai for attempting such an extravagant purchase while in debt, and he promises to refrain. Just then, Citri arrives with an enormous bag of gold, revealing she has saved 800 million for their wedding. She insists it's fair to use it now, leaving Eva horrified. Eva chastises her, blaming her for making Kruai irresponsible, but she defends herself, claiming it's her money, so it doesn't matter. Unwilling to witness their argument, Kruai moves to the window for fresh air. Citri soon joins him, suggesting they meet Eclair to understand why she wants the relic and possibly negotiate. Kruai agrees, and they immediately visit Eclair, who isn't thrilled by their unannounced arrival. She remarks on Kruai's boldness, likening him to Ark. Kruai clarifies that he isn't Ark's rival, just a friend, admitting he hasn't surpassed him. Eclair misinterprets his words as mocking her admiration for Ark. She declares she'll buy the strongest relic for Ark, so he can become the strongest, but Kruai advises her that a relic alone won't achieve that. Undeterred, Eclair vows to win, but Citri reveals their budget is 200 million. If Eclair can't match that, she should step down. Disheartened, Eclair turns to her father, who insists they can't lose to Kruai. He's willing to tap into their savings and even take a loan to ensure Eclair wins the auction. The day of the auction arrives, and Citri and Kruai head toward the auction house with 950 million bucks in hand. Citri mentions she could have secured more money, but Kruai assures her that it's sufficient and insists she shouldn't shoulder any more responsibility. When she tries to lean on him, Liz pulls Kruai to her side, suggesting that if they fail to win the mask at the auction, she can simply steal it from whoever buys it. The two sisters begin a tug-of-war over Kruai, who internally laments that the mask isn't worth all this chaos and decides that if he can't win it, they'll quietly accept defeat. Soon, they arrive at the sleek, futuristic auction building, which is surrounded by a massive crowd. Liz snidely asks if these broke folks are also participating in the auction, but Kruai explains that most are just there to spectate. At that moment, Tino and her group appear, having come out of curiosity. By now, word is spread about Kurai's debt and his intention to bid on the legendary relic, drawing more attention than he desires. To avoid the spotlight, he devises a plan, asks Tino to bid on his behalf, signaling her when necessary. Tino is thrilled by the opportunity, but Liz warns her that losing the bidding war would leave her without a home to return to. While Tino resolves to win, Kruai doubts her chances, knowing he's the one controlling the signals. Just then, the haughty blonde Loli Eclair arrives in her grand carriage, turning her head away with disdain when she spots Kruai. Soon after, the auction begins, and as each item is sold one by one, Kruai can only wait patiently for the mask to be auctioned. It will be the final item due to the excitement surrounding it, and Kruai curses the auction organizers since he cannot bid on other items and must reserve his funds for the last one. Tino keeps glancing at him whenever a new item is presented, but as Kruai continues to decline, she becomes increasingly anxious. This makes Kruai second-guess himself because he has a weakness for artifacts, regardless of their value or utility. He struggles to ignore the urge to signal Tino as each new item is revealed, but then he envisions Citri's reaction if she sees him bidding on things other than the mask. Imagining her warm smile, Kruai realizes that the ominous simp will likely forgive anything he does. Filled with newfound resolve, he stands up, exuding confidence, and decides to bid on every item from this point onward. Just then, the auctioneer presents the next lot, the Akashic Golem that Citri had created while working for the Akashic Tower. Kruai is puzzled, but a glance at Citri's perplexed expression reminds him that it was one of two items she had asked him to negotiate with the government. As the bids increase, Kruai turns to Citri and asks if she wants to purchase it. It's obvious she desires the golem, which she invested significant time and resources in making, but she tells Kruai that it's not the reason they are here. She explains that the golem is a keepsake of her friends, but insists she can manage without it, though Kruai disagrees. He tells Citri he'll buy it and immediately signals Tino to join the bidding war. The golem's price skyrockets past 400 million in moments, prompting Citri to question if Kruai is certain about spending their funds on this rather than saving for the mask. While Kruai appears composed, he's motivated by the fact the money is Citri's anyway. As the price keeps climbing, Kruai eventually signals Tino to bid their full 950 million. When another bidder offers 1 billion, Citri assumes it's over. However, Kruai reveals a hidden ace and continues bidding, ultimately securing the golem for 1.6 billion. Citri and Liz are stunned since it far exceeds their budget, but Kruai casually hands Citri a check to cover the bid. Citri is thrilled and promises to repay Kruai soon, though he thinks she should repay his sister Lucia instead, as he borrowed the money from her savings. The auctioneer then reveals that the winning bid wasn't Tino's but Greg's, who is still processing what happened. Later, Tino apologizes to Kruai, admitting she didn't understand how bidding works and let Greg take over. Kruai believes everything is going as planned and decides to leave the building to rest, informing Tino and her friends that his intention all along was to purchase only the golem. Without waiting for the mask to go on auction, he steps outside but then remembers that the Loli planned to give the mask to Ark. This sparks an idea about how to claim the mask for himself. Kruai heads straight to Ark's office and warns him that the relic Eclair possesses is extremely dangerous, urging Ark to visit her immediately to address the matter. Although Ark's team protests Kruai's assertiveness, Ark takes the warning seriously, asking if he should bring a weapon. Kruai assures him it isn't necessary, but adds that if Ark doesn't reach Eclair in time, it could end badly. Convinced, Ark quickly leaves, much to Kruai's satisfaction, as he plans to acquire the mask from Ark at a favorable price once he retrieves it from Eclair. Meanwhile, Eclair sits dejectedly in her room, having been dismissed by her father, who claimed Kruai let her win the mask. The butler had reported Kruai leaving the auction house before the mask was even listed, leading Eclair's father to conclude they were tricked into paying 200 million for a grotesque and worthless mask. Alone in her room, Eclair cries, feeling like a fool and deciding she can't give the mask to Ark after all. Suddenly, she hears a voice emanating from the mask, asking if she desires power. The mask begins levitating in the air, declaring to air that it can grant her the power to improve her life. Alarmed, she quickly draws her sword, realizing Kruai was right about its danger. However, she finds herself overwhelmed as the mask's tentacles ensnare her. Meanwhile, Ark meets Eclair's father, who reveals she has been despondent since he accused her of wasting money on the useless mask. She has locked herself in her room, and her father hopes Ark can help. Suddenly, loud explosions echo, prompting Ark's party to spring into action. They discover a guard unconscious in the hallway just as Eclair arrives, dragging another guard. Under the mask's control, she vows to destroy anyone who belittles her. She hurls the guard against the wall, terrifying everyone. Ark, however, calmly approaches and kneels, asking what's happening. She explains she acquired the mask to make him the strongest, and he asks her to give it to him. Eclair almost complies, but spotting his sword, she becomes enraged. Ark remembers Kray's warning to come unarmed and realizes his mistake has worsened the situation. With no other choice, he prepares to subdue Eclair, instructing his party to avoid harming her and focus on removing the mask. Ark and his group return to the clan's headquarters after resolving the mask issue, where Kruai promptly bows to apologize for the trouble he caused. Noticing their worn-out appearance, he assumes Eclair may have thrown a tantrum. Ark marvels at how accurately Kruai seems to have anticipated the entire situation. Handing the mask to Kruai, Eclair steps forward to apologize for starting a fight with him. Suddenly, the mask begins to speak, diverting Kruai's attention as he excitedly puts it on. However, his enthusiasm wanes when he discovers his abilities are so lacking that he doesn't meet the criteria to activate the mask, while even Eclair does. The mask deactivates and falls to the ground, leaving Kruai disappointed that it isn't the powerful artifact he sought, though he acknowledges that a talking relic is still a valuable find. He asks Eclair if he can keep it, but she is so disgusted that she wants nothing to do with it. With the issue resolved, Kruai proposes they enjoy the party he arranged, complete with cake. Everyone begins to relax and have fun, but as Kruai steps outside, he reflects on how even Eclair surpasses him in strength, reigniting his desire to retire from treasure hunting once more. This is the end of the series. If you like this video, please hit that like and subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. All of your support helps me to keep bringing more high-quality recaps.
Take